Good morning. I am Janet Lenahan, and I have the pleasure and privilege of serving as interim provost. Welcome to the inauguration of Dr. Susan Poser, the 9th president of Hofstra University. I thank the audience and all members of our platform party for adhering to our public health protocols and remind you that masks are required indoors for the entirety of the ceremony. Before we begin our program, I would like to ask Donald Schaefer, the chair of Hofstra University's Board of Trustees, to offer a special welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Provost Lenahan. Good morning. On behalf of the Hofstra University Board of Trustees, it is my pleasure and privilege to welcome you all to the inauguration of Hofstra University's 9th president, Dr. Susan Poser. Today is a very special day. It is the culmination of a process in which the search committee spent 1 year in the pursuit of a president who would be an exceptional successor to the 8 individuals who have led Hofstra University since its founding more than 85 years ago. A person who would assume the leadership role of this institution and guide it to a new era. That person is Dr. Susan Poser. Today we are gratified to witness the pageantry of a formal academic ceremony and celebration, especially after the past 18 months. To inaugurate and welcome Dr. Poser, and to have trustees, students, faculty, administration, staff, alumni, friends, and neighbors come together as Dr. Poser formally assumes the mantle of leadership at our beloved Hofstra. We also welcome colleagues from academic institutions, from regional nonprofits, and government agencies, and the many elected officials and representatives from local, state, and federal government who have joined us today. And we are most pleased to have so many students in attendance today to join us celebrating the beginning of this new chapter in Hofstra's distinguished history. An inauguration is a moment to look forward and dream, and also to reflect on and honor the past. We have been fortunate to have the leadership of President Emeritus Stuart Rabinowitz for the past 2 decades, after a long career at Hofstra as a scholar and a leader at the law school. Under his tenure, the university's financial conditions strengthened as the endowment grew, new schools and colleges were founded, facilities were built, and the university hosted 3 consecutive presidential debates. His leadership and vision created remarkable growth in the history of Hofstra and established a strong foundation on which to build for the future. Even though he could not be here today, the work of Stuart Rabinowitz can be seen in the schools, programs, and facilities we have here at Hofstra. We are fortunate that the platform party includes Dr. Herman Berliner, Provost Emeritus, and Patricia Adamski, former Senior Vice President. Both of these 2 long-serving administrators were integral to Hofstra's growth and success over the past decades, and we are grateful that they came back to join us today. Thank you both for your service and your years of dedicated work on behalf of the Hofstra community. The most important role of the Board of Trustees is to select a president. A leader who will manage the university through the years ahead, who will steer us through the changing winds of time, and lead the university and its constituencies to a new day. Both the search committee and the board were unanimous in their decision to appoint Dr. Susan Poser as the 9th president of this great university. The Board of Trustees is looking forward to working with President Poser as we begin a bright new chapter for Hofstra University. It is in this light that I welcome you all to this important moment in Hofstra's history as we celebrate the inauguration of Dr. Susan Poser. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Schaefer. As part of the foundation of our ceremony today, we gratefully acknowledge the Native peoples on whose ancestral homelands we gather, as well as the diverse and vibrant Native communities who make their home here and throughout New York State today. We take a moment to recognize the original inhabitants of this territory, indigenous land, which we acknowledge as sacred territory, as the land of many tribes, including the Matincox, the Merricks, and Massapequa in the miles around us. Now please rise in body or in spirit for the invocation delivered by the university's Board of Chaplains, Reverend Joyce Brandon Dugar, Father Sean McGaldy, Rabbi Dave Siegel, and Sheikh Ibad Wali.
Good morning. May we please bow our heads. Gracious Creator of us all, we gather first and foremost to say thank you for this amazing day, to welcome our 9th President of Hofstra University, Dr. Susan Posner. May you be grounded in peace and move with the Creator's grace. May each of us pray as a community to continue to serve humanity, create safe spaces, and be true to ourselves. Protect us, keep us, and be with our amazing university today and forevermore. Amen.
It is now my pleasure to introduce Kira Siraj Bali, class of 2023, who will perform the National Anthem and who will be accompanied by Associate Professor Adam Glazer on piano. Immediately following the anthem, the Hofstra Inaugural Vocal Ensemble, conducted by Professor David Freiling, will perform the university's alma mater, Blue and Gold, composed by Robert Rosen, class of 2016. The words to the alma mater are on the inside front cover of your program. Please stand in body or spirit.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that
and true, selfless with thy knowledge and vision to pursue. Through all the lands we journey, thou shalt remain our home. Dear Hofstra, we are grateful, and thus we thank thee for inspiring us and guiding us through all the great unknown. All hail the blue and
Please be seated. I now have the pleasure of making some very special introductions, beginning with representatives from the Board of Trustees. Please hold your applause until the end. In addition to the University Board of Trustee Chair, Donald Schaefer, we are privileged to have with us today current officers, including Secretary David Mack and Vice Chair Martha Pope, former board chairs, Trustees Janice Meyer and Trustee Marilyn Montour, Trustee Susan Catalano, Trustee Michael D. Domenico, Trustee Diana Lake, Trustee Stella Mendez, Trustee Deborah Sandler, Trustee Michael Seaman, Trustee Joseph Spiraccio. Please join me in welcoming and thanking our Board of Trustees with us today. Before we introduce the remainder of our platform party, I would like to thank those representatives who came from far and wide to celebrate this historical moment for our university. On behalf of President Poser, our Board of Trustees, and our entire community, your presence today enhances our celebration and reminds us of our connection to the world, to other scholars, and other institutions. We are fortunate to have with us today representatives of more than 20 universities, from our neighbors here on Long Island and in New York, from universities with connections to President Poser, and from colleges and institutions across the country. Thank you so much for joining us here this morning as we begin a new chapter for Hofstra University. Will all the delegates from colleges and universities please rise so that we may welcome you? The connection that Hofstra has to our neighbors, to the towns and villages that surround us, and to our representatives in Albany and Washington, D.C., allows us to create relationships outside of our border and connect to the larger world. We are very fortunate to have with us today representatives from several local school boards and civic associations, the Village of Hempstead, the Town of Hempstead, the Nassau County Legislature, the New York State Assembly, and the New York State Senate, as well as many state and local agencies. While we are grateful for all who have joined us, we would like to take a moment to recognize those who most directly represent us. We are especially pleased to welcome Laura Curran, the Nassau County Executive, and Jack Schneerman, the Nassau County Comptroller. We also welcome two members of the New York State Assembly representing our campus, Taylor Darling and Edward Ra. Special welcome also to Town of Hempstead Supervisor Don Clavin and our representative to the Town Board, Dorothy Gooseberry, as well as Mayor of the Village of Hempstead, Mayor Wayland Hobbs Jr. Please join me in welcoming and thanking all of these different representatives. An inauguration is a celebration of coming together, of the community to mark the beginning of a new era. And so we welcome today the guests who mean so much to our institution, who are part of the Hofstra family. I include in this parents of our current students, the leaders of Long Island nonprofits and advocacy institutions, Northwell Health, alumni, and donors. Thanks also to our administrators and staff who have worked tirelessly these past 18 months to keep our university running and who have continued to work so hard to get this semester off to a great start and to allow us to celebrate today safely and in person. Our most special thanks go to our students and faculty who have made this celebration meaningful and inclusive. We especially thank the students who organized this week's events and those who came out for community service projects. We thank the faculty for joining today, for serving on our advisory committee, and for hosting the 10 academic symposia this week. The Hofstra community is as strong and as vibrant as it is because of our students and faculty. Now please allow me to introduce our platform party. First, I ask the vice presidents of the university to stand. The vice presidents are leaders who represent, there you go. Our vice presidents are leaders who represent the administrative areas of the university and are listed in your program. Please join me in welcoming our vice presidents. Will the deans of Hofstra University please rise? Our deans represent our academic core of our university and are also listed in the program. Please join me in giving them another round of applause as they have done a fantastic job. And representing all of the faculty of Hofstra University, the Speaker of our faculty, Will Nyrode. Serving as marshals this morning are William Caniano, Chair of the University's Senate Executive Committee, and Karen Valerius, Chairs of the Chairs Caucus. The remainder of our platform party is listed in your program. Please join me as we welcome our entire platform party today. Our first welcome comes from Capitol Hill. While Senator Charles Schumer, the Majority Leader of the United States Senate, could not be with us today, we would like to share this message from him.
Hi, everyone. This is Senator Chuck Schumer, and I'm sorry I can't be with you all on campus today, but there are a few things going on in Washington these days. That said, I wouldn't dream of missing the opportunity to participate in this wonderful, wonderful occasion. The inauguration of Hofstra University's new president, Dr. Susan Posner. With a national reputation for educational excellence, Hofstra is one of New York's finest private institutions of higher education, attracting some of the best and brightest students across the nation here to Long Island. And every year, Hofstra gets better and better and better. And I'm sure under Dr. Posner's leadership, that will continue. I'm so glad that she, an experienced administrator of academic distinction and most importantly, a born and raised New Yorker, has returned to our state to take on this challenging and important role. To Dr. Posner, Stuart Rabinowitz was my friend and we helped Hofstra in so many different ways. And I promise I will continue to do that with you to help Hofstra, its faculty, its staff, and its students achieve even greater heights. So congratulations to you on this momentous occasion. Thank you for inviting me to participate, and once again, congratulations. I look forward to seeing you all on campus soon again.
It is now my great honor to present the painting that the Inauguration Committee commissioned for today's event. To represent the hope and promise on this occasion, on this new chapter in the history of Hofstra. This beautiful painting was made by Kelly Elkwood's class of 2023 and the winner of Hofstra's Purchase Award. You have, with no doubt, already seen Kelly's work, as her painting has been used in all of our inaugural invitations, presentations, and promotions to represent the beginning of President Posner's term as president. Kelly describes it in the following way. It evokes an optimistic and hopeful tone. And for those of us who know and love this university, we can see that the colors and flowers represent Hofstra's history. Kelly, will you please stand to be recognized for your work? Please join me in congratulating Kelly. Kelly, thank you for sharing your talent with us. I now would like to call to the podium the representative of our student body, the president of the Student Government Association, Kyra Connolly Sisk, class of 22.
Hi. Hello, close friends. Hello, Hofstra. And hello, greater community. My name is Kaya Connolly Sisk, and I am your Student Government Association president. I am honored to be standing here on this exceptional, extraordinary, historic day. The student government prides itself on being the chief advocate for the student body, and we are so excited to work alongside President Susan Poser for years to come. From greeting orientation leaders and the students in the class of 2025, to showing up on regular days in our student center, President Poser shows up. She shows us that she cares about our students, not as a number, and not as a collective, but on the individual level. That is the kind of president I want, and that is the kind of president I am so grateful that we have. Welcome, President Poser. We are so lucky to have you.
In addition to commissioning a painting, the Inauguration Committee asked the Department of English and Creative Writing to host a call for an inaugural poem, encouraging submissions that celebrated new beginnings, a better world, a more inclusive society, poems that might represent the promise of this moment. The three judges, Jessica Brojarak, Ashanti Davis, and Hunter Wexler, are all alumni of Hofstra University's creative writing program. The poem, Forward, by Nicole Wong, a third-year law student at the Maurice A. Dean School of Law, was selected to be the inaugural poem. I now ask Nicole Wong to come forward to read her original work, which is also listed in your program.
Thank you. Welcome, Dr. Posner. It is hard being a student. I can't even find the words to explain how hard it is being a law student. This poem was inspired by a conversation with Professor James Sample to encourage me to move forward. It's dedicated to all of the faculty and staff at Hofstra that make